Hello, this is Julian with Coffee Reviews, and today we'll be reviewing the Rambagira wash processed Rwanda from Maquina Coffee Roasters. And there's the bag right there. And quick correction from that blind taste test rankings video, as Maquina is actually based out of Coatesville, Pennsylvania, and not Philadelphia. They were, of course, featured in that blind taste test rankings video as part of a viewer-subscriber recommendation suggestion series. And this one was another suggestion brought to us by Zach and Greg Like Coffee. So another shout out to Zach and Greg Like Coffee for this suggestion. And this coffee was the winner and did finish first out of 5 coffees on that day. And it's fun to think back on that blind taste test rankings video and see why they finished first. So the first time we tried this coffee, we couldn't necessarily tell which one it was, but it was on that second run through that we were really kind of actually blown away by how clean, crisp, and notable the flavors in this coffee were. So in our opinions, this one was actually a clear standout winner on that day. It finished first, and it finished first by actually quite a bit of a margin. So we are very much looking forward to discussing this coffee, and truth be told, of these 5 coffees, this is one we're actually most looking forward to discussing. This right here is day 22 of this coffee. And we had very limited experience with Maquina beforehand. We tried them a couple of times, but nothing that stood out, nothing that we really remembered that prominently. But we had a pretty high impression of them going into this, so we were very much looking forward to our first full bag experience of this coffee. The recipe we used for this coffee was our standard recipe 16.671. It's 204 degrees Fahrenheit, brewed through the Chemex, and this is a light medium American for the roast profile. It's typically a good sign when we don't have to adjust our recipe too much because the coffee was just that good to start with. Alright, let's go ahead and start talking about the coffee. On day 8, that was the first time we'd ever tried this coffee, and it was on that blind taste test day, and it left a very positive first impression. It is just a really well done cup of coffee. Light-bodied, some very pretty cherry flavors, some subtle stone fruits, just overall well done. We want to emphasize that cherry specifically because people that have seen a lot of our reviews know that we were getting pretty unhappy with a lot of the cherry flavor notes in coffees, but it was a very kind of artificial cherry that's been in a lot of these coffees, but this one is a very sweet, it's a distinct and different cherry from a lot of the other cherries we've gotten, and cherries are one of our favorite fruits, so this is actually a terrific cherry in this coffee. Day 9, still a super delightful coffee. Curious to see if there's more depth to this coffee because it can be ever so slightly one-dimensional. It's kind of like cherry tea, stone fruit tea to it, but we were getting a slight bit of earthiness that was complementing this cup of coffee very nice. Very sweet cherry. Day 13, this coffee kind of gets the raw end of the deal. Because it finished first, it was the one we had to work through the slowest and the one we were going to finish last, so we were taking our time with this coffee. Again, sweet cherry, maybe even some sweet raisins, essentially a really light cherry tea. Stone fruit wasn't overly prominent on this day, but the balance of fruit sweetness and lighter body was super nice. It's super pleasant in this cup of coffee. Day 15, this coffee is really consistent. Unlike the other coffees, this one just throughout the time it was either improving on the same flavor profile that it had, or it was just staying the exact same. Pulling out some slight grape and berries, tea-like component continues, just overall solid. No matter which day we were trying this coffee, we were still like, this is just objectively speaking a really well done cup of coffee. On day 17, remarkable consistency in this coffee. It begins with a super beautiful tea-like body. Stone fruits, it never really built upon, but it was still there from a lot of... Actually, here's what we noticed. When this coffee is done as a cold brew, the stone fruit is actually much more prominent than the cherry. The stone fruit is really lively when it's done as a cold brew, so that's worth noting. But the delightfully sweet cherry remained very present in this coffee. I can't emphasize enough how delightful the cherry is actually in this coffee. Great change of pace too, considering how frustrated we've been with cherry flavors in coffee. Day 19, final impression, can't emphasize enough the loveliness of the tea in this coffee. Can't help but admire how well done this cup of coffee is. Stone fruits a little bit more prominent on this day as well. Great job, honestly, just a great job. Let's go ahead and put up the tasting wheel so you can see what we're getting. We do have to note how funny it is because this tasting wheel does look like a dinosaur. Thought that when we were finished making the tasting wheel, but yeah, it looks like a dinosaur. You got the tail, you got the nose, kind of like a rhinoceros. Anyway, things that jump out: cleanliness level 4, berry fruit level 4, and usually when there's a pretty clean cup of coffee, we usually have a lot of admiration for it. This is well done. Sweetness level 3, finish level 3. Stone fruit level 3, nothing else overly high. We've got a couple level 1s and a couple level 2s, but nothing really else worth speaking on. Berry fruits, cherry's technically a berry fruit, so of course that's why the berry fruits at level 4, and that's like grape from time to time. Citrus fruit, there were some times we thought it could be a little bit citric, but other than that, level 2 looks perfect. It's a great looking tasting whale, even if it does look like a dinosaur. Alright, so our final thoughts and impressions of this coffee of Maquina. It finished first on that day. It was definitely the best coffee that we had on that table, in our personal opinion. This one stands head and shoulders above the rest as the best cup of coffee. The Little Wolf is also a really well done cup of coffee. It just happens to be a Kenya, and we typically don't enjoy Kenyas. But this gave us a lot of respect for Maquina, a coffee roaster that we have very limited familiarity with. They did a great job. I don't know if it's necessarily them or the coffee, but we're going to just give credit to both and say both the farmers as well as the coffee roaster did an amazing job with this coffee. So massive props to both of them. The type of person we would suggest this coffee to is somebody that does love their clean cherries. And if you're interested in cold brews, then we think this one would be actually a terrific cold brew because we love there's no better cold brew than one that has stone fruits. When a cold brew is stone fruit, it is terrific. In both senses of this coffee, warm, hot, and cold, makes all three senses. This is a terrific cup of coffee, and we're going to keep gushing about it. It has a slight outside chance of finishing as one of our top 10 favorite coffees of the year. It's probably our favorite Rwanda of the year. It's really impressive just overall, so massive props to Maquina. We think you guys did an amazing job. Easily our favorite coffee from this set in the series. We're going to leave it at that. I'm gushing too much about this coffee as it is. If you've tried this Rwanda, we'd love to know your thoughts and impressions of it, as well as Maquina. We might go back and try something else from them because this left a really positive first impression of a full bag of theirs. If you're enjoying the content, give this video a like and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. This right here has been a review of the Rambagira wash process Rwanda from Maquina. Thank you for watching.